I watched a Japanese mother tell her 5-year-old no in a toy store, and what happened next completely shocked me. There was no tantrum, no begging, no negotiating. Her child simply accepted the no with calm disappointment and moved on within seconds. Meanwhile, every time I said no to my kids, it triggered massive meltdowns, endless whining, and me eventually caving in out of exhaustion. I had to know what she was doing differently, so I studied Japanese parenting approaches to setting boundaries, and I discovered 5 specific habits that Japanese parents use when saying no that create children who can accept limits without falling apart. The third habit was the game changer that eliminated 90% of our store meltdowns within 2 weeks. These aren't just cultural differences. These are concrete communication techniques that work because they align with how children's brains process boundaries. If you struggle with tantrums, negotiating, and power struggles every time you set a limit, hit that like button and subscribe right now because these 5 Japanese habits are going to transform how your child responds to the word no. Let me start by explaining why saying no is so hard in American parenting culture and why Japanese parents seem to have an easier time with it. In the US, we tend to over-explain, justify our no's, or feel guilty about them, which communicates to children that the boundary is negotiable. We say things like, no, you can't have that because we already bought you a toy last week, and if I get you this, then you'll expect toys every time and we don't have unlimited money. We're defending our decision, which signals weakness. But Japanese parents operate from a fundamental belief that boundaries are part of caring for children, not depriving them, so they set limits with calm confidence that doesn't invite debate. The first habit Japanese parents use is stating the boundary once clearly and calmly without over-explaining. When a Japanese parent says no, it sounds like this. We're not buying toys today. That's it. No long justification, no defending the decision, no multiple explanations. The boundary is stated as a simple fact, the same way you'd state the sky is blue. This calm, matter-of-fact delivery communicates that this isn't up for debate. This is simply how it is. When I started doing this, cutting out all my justifications and explanations, something remarkable happened. My kids stopped arguing because there was nothing to argue against. I wasn't giving reasons they could poke holes in or negotiate around. The boundary was just. At first, this felt uncomfortable because I thought I owed them explanations. But children don't need lengthy justifications for every boundary. They need calm, clear limits delivered with confidence. The second habit is acknowledging the child's disappointment without changing the boundary. This is crucial because American parents often confuse empathy with giving in. We see our child upset about a no, we feel terrible, and we either cave or we get defensive and angry. Japanese parents do something different. They validate the feeling while holding the limit firm. It sounds like this. I know you really wanted that toy. It's disappointing when we can't have something we want, but we're not buying toys today. Notice what's happening here. The parent is showing they understand and accept the child's disappointment, but the boundary doesn't move. This teaches children that their feelings are valid, but they don't always get to control outcomes. When I started using this approach, my kids' tantrums became shorter because they felt heard. They still didn't get what they wanted, but they felt understood, and that reduced the intensity of their reaction. The third habit, and this is the one that changed everything for us, is offering choices within the boundary instead of just saying no. Japanese parents rarely use flat no when there's room for a limited choice. Instead of no, you can't have a snack. They say you can have apple slices or carrots, which would you like? Instead of no, we're not going to the park. They say we can't go to the park today, but we can play in the backyard or do a craft inside. What sounds better to you? This is brilliant psychology because it gives children a sense of control and autonomy within safe limits. They're not getting their first choice, but they're not powerless either. When I started using this technique, the negotiating and meltdowns decreased dramatically. Instead of fighting the no, my kids were focused on choosing between the options I offered. They felt respected and heard, and I still maintained the boundary I needed. If you want parenting strategies that actually reduce conflict while maintaining boundaries, make sure you subscribe and turn notifications on. The fourth habit is staying emotionally neutral when delivering and holding boundaries. American parents often get emotionally charged when saying no, either because we feel guilty or because our child's reaction is triggering our own frustration. We end up either angry or apologetic, both of which undermine the boundary. Japanese parents remain calm and neutral, treating boundaries as neutral facts of life, not personal conflicts. This was hard for me because my kids' big reactions would trigger big emotions in me. I'd either get angry and escalate, or I'd feel so guilty I'd give in. But when I practiced staying calm and neutral, treating the no like I was just stating that dinner is at 6, something shifted. My emotional neutrality helped my kids regulate faster because I wasn't adding fuel to their emotional fire. The boundary was just information, not a battle. The fifth habit is following through consistently every single time. Japanese parenting culture values consistency highly, and parents follow through on what they say without exception or negotiation. If they say no to buying a toy, they don't buy it even if the child begs for 30 minutes. If they say it's time to leave, they leave even if the child is upset. This consistency teaches children that boundaries are real and predictable, which actually creates security. I used to cave in sometimes when I was tired or embarrassed by a public tantrum. But that inconsistency taught my kids that no actually meant maybe if you push hard enough. Once I committed to following through every single time, no matter what, my kids tested less because they learned my boundaries were solid. The testing period was hard, but it was temporary. Now they accept me much faster because they trust that I mean what I say. Comment below and tell me honestly which of these habits is hardest for you. The calm delivery, staying neutral, or following through consistently? Here's what happened in our home after I implemented all 5 habits consistently for 1 month. The power struggles decreased by probably 70%. My kids stopped negotiating and whining nearly as much when I said no because the way I delivered boundaries changed. They learned that no means no, that their disappointment would be acknowledged but wouldn't change the outcome, and that they often had choices within the boundaries. Our relationship improved because setting limits stopped being these big emotional battles and became calm, matter-of-fact moments. But I want to be really clear about something important. These 5 habits work best within a relationship where children feel connected, heard, and valued most of the time. Japanese parenting isn't just about firm boundaries. It's about combining those boundaries with warm connection, respect, and meeting children's emotional needs. You can't just implement firm boundaries without the relational foundation and expect cooperation. The boundaries work because they exist within a context of secure attachment and respect. Additionally, these habits are most effective when applied consistently from early childhood. However, they can also be beneficial for older children. It just takes longer to shift established patterns. If you're starting these habits with a 7-year-old who's used to negotiating every boundary, expect a testing period where things might get worse before they get better. Stay consistent through that period and the new pattern will establish itself. Let me give you practical language for each of these 5 habits so you can start using them today. When you need to say no, keep it short and calm. We're not doing that today. When your child reacts with disappointment, validate without changing course. I hear that you're upset. This is disappointing. When possible, offer limited choices. You can't have candy, but you can choose an apple or crackers. Stay emotionally neutral no matter how your child reacts. Your calm is their anchor. And follow through completely without exceptions, warnings, or negotiations. The beauty of these Japanese habits is that they're respectful to both parent and child. You're not crushing your child's spirit with harshness. You're calmly and firmly teaching them that boundaries are a normal, non-negotiable part of life. And they're learning to tolerate disappointment, regulate their emotions when they don't get what they want, and make choices within appropriate limits. These are life skills that will serve them forever. If these 5 Japanese habits for saying no resonate with you and you can see how they'd reduce the daily power struggles in your home, please share this video with another parent who's exhausted from negotiating everything. Drop a comment and tell me which habit you're going to start implementing first or share your biggest struggle with setting boundaries. And make sure you're subscribed because we're building a community of parents who learn from wisdom across cultures and apply methods that create calmer homes without sacrificing boundaries or connection. Thank you for being here and for being willing to try approaches that might challenge what you've been taught. Boundaries don't have to be battles, and these 5 habits prove it.